Good morning, everyone, and welcome into another edition of WST Sunday Live. My name is Hrabchak, and as always, I am joined today by Lyss, Houde, and Jacob Stoller. We've got a full crew, and as you can maybe see on our socials last night, the thumbnail of this video, all three of us were in the building last night covering Jets Canadiens, getting all the info we need, asking all the questions we need for today's show. So I'm super fired up for it. The Jets, obviously, with a big 4-2 win on Hockey Night in Canada. Lyss, I'll start with you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. That was an awesome Hockey Night in Canada game to have for Jets fans in Winnipeg. First and foremost, it's always nice to have a packed barn on a Saturday night. There was a lot of red in the building, some great cheers when Laine Hutson scored his first NHL goal and when the Habs started showing some hope later in the game. But at the end of the day, there was a huge Jets crowd. They got a massive win, some fun special teams, some real emotion in that game, and all together kind of, snuck out that win at the end. Really, really fun game for a Hockey Night in Canada. First Hockey Night in Canada at home this year for the Jets, which was really awesome.
Yes, that was fun. Jacob, how are you doing this morning?
Doing great. I'm extremely happy that Laine Hutson scored a goal. I think he's a really great defenseman and underappreciated by the host of the show.
Yeah,
honestly, I torched you. I do feel bad. I did kind of torch you, but we did get in a heated Laine Hutson debate.
We did
before he scored his first NHL goal, which I thought was pretty fitting.
And that's the point of Laine Hutson's career so far, or like the discussion around him. It's just heated debates. Like that's all it is around that guy right now. Is
I think it's just Habs fans yelling and all of us being like, "Oh God!" But I think he's great, so I'm here for it.
Well, maybe we'll talk about Laine Hutson as we go along here. But let's start with the Winnipeg Jets. Before we get into that, nice to see everyone here with us live in chat at 9 a.m. on a Sunday. Darth Skater. In Analytics We Trust, Comet, Matt Hyman, Winnipeg Chaster, some awesome regulars that are always here with us live on a Sunday morning. So thank you everyone for joining us. Like I said off the top, like you can see with the thumbnail, we were all in the building last night. Lyss, what were your initial takeaways from the Jets play in the 4-2 win over Montreal?
Yeah, I thought kind of altogether it was a pretty balanced game in the sense of I felt like there was a lot of momentum on both sides at different parts in the game, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, this was the sort of game where one of these teams is one of the best teams in the NHL and one of these teams is one of the worst teams in the NHL, right? And so both teams had some good moments, both teams had some fun, special teams and everything, but Winnipeg had the talent that was able to score in some of those bigger moments and pot a couple home to really secure the win, even though they didn't necessarily outplay the Habs for the full 60 minutes by any means. They were good. The Habs were also good. I thought this was a good showing for the Montreal club, but altogether, I thought it was a pretty good Jets game. Definitely better than what they showed on Thursday.
Yeah, Jacob, what were your thoughts on the Jets play in the 4-2 win?
Yeah, I meant to look this up before, but it's either at least the second, but maybe the third time that they haven't recorded a shot in the first 5 minutes of a game. And to me, I think it was another slower start. But obviously those are going to happen. Like I think that in a course of 82 games, you're going to have slow starts. You're going to have these bad habits trickle in. The key is, as we saw during the streak to start the year, you have to find ways to win. Recently, the Jets haven't been as often. They did this time. I think that we'll get into it, but there's some things that I'm kind of nitpicky about, and maybe that's clouding my judgment. Like Lyss, you said when we were driving back from the game, all three of us, how like when you watch a team 82 games a year, you're always going to be kind of pessimistic, or sometimes you can be, and I probably do fall into that camp. But I don't know. There's some things.
Still some video work to do after that game, for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a video
Don't
session.
Burn the tape.
Yeah, don't burn the tape. And as our Neil said after the Florida game, everyone's going to be a star. So that's where I'm at, just to tease this episode.
Okay, great. Well, where I want to start with this is the dominant storyline. Jay Miller just brought it up. Connor Hellebuyck and Patrick Laine, because Patrick Laine, I thought Kenny and Rennie nailed it last night, where they said he made a random game in December or January, and those games can be tough to get excited for. Opposite conference teams. I know it's two Canadian teams, but he made this game fun by playing into it, having that confident answer in his morning skate where Hellebuyck hasn't played against him. This was the first time he was going to face Hellebuyck, called it the Patty flu. I thought it was great. I loved it. And then Connor Hellebuyck obviously has a great game. Patrik Laine has 7 shots on goal and no goals. Let's just quickly hear what Connor Hellebuyck had to say about the Patty flu and him playing his first game against Patrik Laine and stopping all 7 shots against him.
He flew those games because you never played. Your response?
No flu tonight. No flu tonight. He had a lot of shots tonight, and he's a good shooter, but none for him.
Yeah.
For you.
I just love that answer. Like, he's a good shooter, but none for him. It's just kind of like, too bad, couldn't beat me. And one of the best saves of the night was the one on the one-timer with the blocker, and then he's falling backwards and bats it with kind of like both his blocker and his glove because he dropped his stick at the time. Yeah, crazy save off of Patrik Laine. But Jacob, what can you say about first Patrik Laine making the comments? Obviously, love to see him back playing hockey, looking great, and having that confidence, and then also Connor Hellebuyck's performance against Patrik Laine in this game.
First off, I think that I can speak for anyone that lives in the city that I think everyone's really happy to see Laine back doing what he does.
100%.
When you go to Canada Life Center on a given night, I would say that the Laine name bar is the second, if not third most prevalent jersey, like maybe if not first. Like when I don't know if you guys in your households are like this, but growing up for me, it was always like, okay, if you're gonna get a Jets jersey, which player are you going to get that's going to last the longest, right? Because you're not going to get a jersey every year. My brother screwed that up by getting Burmistrov in year 1. But yeah, I went with Ladd.
Idiot.
Or Bufflin. But anyways, Laine was always that guy where it was a safe bet. He was the poster child. He was his franchise, right? Second overall pick. Guy scored 80 goals as a teenager. There's always this kind of what could have been feeling with Laine, and I think before the game, I kind of felt that it's like, you see, like, he gets an ovation from the crowd, like you see the highlights of him sniping. It's like, it was a really fun 2 years that he was here. And I wrote about this for Sportsnet last night. Last night was kind of like a not so subtle reminder of like the franchise talent they do have that wasn't just a flash in the pan, no disrespect, but is the best goalie in the world, and that's Connor Hellebuyck. Like, that guy was dialed last night. Like, that guy was just... Laine had 7 shots, 4 of which were on the power play, and all but 1 of those were in his sweet spot, like in his wheelhouse, right? And Hellebuyck was square on each one, and when he wasn't and made that cross-crease save we just talked about, he read it perfectly. And I think that Connor Hellebuyck will never get this team in the headlines like ESPN or globally, like put this team on the sports landscape. Like, no, he'll be on there. He'll be on there. I can promise you, we'll put him on there.
Yeah.
But Connor Hellebuyck is going to be the player, if this team ever has a chance of winning a Stanley Cup, that gets them there. And I think that last time was a reminder of that. It doesn't make it any better, but I don't know. I thought it was an interesting moment of toe-to-toe storylining there that wasn't maybe intentional, but it made for a great game.
I have to agree with you, and it did make for a game within the game, if you want to call it, with the Laine Hellebuyck duel.
And Hellebuyck had no idea about the comments, which was the funniest part.
Which was the funniest part, but it was, I don't know, all of us sitting there, everyone in the building knew it was Laine versus Hellebuyck, especially with those power.
And even if he didn't hear the comments
on the left circle,
he knew.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
of course.
And I just want to highlight 2 more saves before I get Lyss's thoughts on this, but the Juraj Slafkovsky, like off his chest into the crease where he turns around and swipes the puck off the goal line right before Cole Caulfield whacks it in, was an incredible save. And then there was one where it was a 3-2 game and Lane Hutson threw like this sick cross seam pass to Cole Caulfield that, like, it was from one side of the ice to the other in structure in the zone, and Hellebuyck like was square in position on Cole Caulfield. Like, goalies shouldn't be that positionally sound moving over on a cross crease like that, but Hellebuyck had his full body square to it. It was a 3-2 game at the time. That would have made it a 3-3 game, obviously changed things, but just an unbelievable performance from Connor Hellebuyck. Lyss, what do you have to say about Laine back, healthy, looking great, and then the duel between him and Hellebuyck on this night?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even agree more with Jacob about how dialed Connor Hellebuyck looked. And I think it's one of those things. Montreal falls into a very fascinating camp to me as a team where, yes, they aren't one of the best teams in the NHL by any means. But at the end of the day, yes, you can maybe push them to the outside a little bit easier. Yes, maybe they aren't. Well, they are good in transition, but they are not Vegas. They are not the current Minnesota Wild, whatever. But all of a sudden, you're down a man. They have 5 players out there. Patrik Laine is Patrik Laine no matter what team he's on. Cole Caulfield is Cole Caulfield no matter what team he's on. And those difficult shots, maybe they come at a slightly less of a frequency because they play for a team that's in, coming out of the rebuild in the way that Montreal is. But those are still the most elite shots in the NHL. Patrik Laine, I thought, like you said he had 7 or 8 shots last night. I think, we saw a couple of the real good ones. He had a couple of little like fluffers that weren't the real Patrik Laine shots or anything like that, but those were real, excellent shots. And if Connor Hellebuyck wasn't dialed last night, it's a different game. Montreal had some really, really good looks, and you just described in great detail some of the greatest saves of the night, and he was positionally sound in and around every single one of those as well throughout the entire 60.
Yeah, 100%. And just quickly before we move on to some of the other topics surrounding the Winnipeg Jets, let's hear one more time from Connor Hellebuyck. Here's what he had to say about that save on Patrik Laine, where gets over with the blocker and then bats it out as he's kind of like falling down. Yeah, like Lyss showed just there. Here's what Hellebuyck had to say.
Pass across.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, say, if I screw up, I can make a good save, So when they pass it down, I had lost it for a second, and I kind of locked my knees for just a half a second. By the time I picked it up, it was on its way to the net. So the only thing I could do was just flail and try to make something cool, and thank God I did.
You had a better view than maybe we did from up. Like, if you don't catch that puck, was it likely going in the net, or going to hit you and go in, I guess?
It was coming down right on my head, and there's 2 guys crashing the net. So, I mean, you can play any type of what-if game you want, but I got my glove on it and stopped it and sent it out.
So there it is, Connor Hellebuyck. Jacob, go ahead.
Can I say one crazy Connor Hellebuyck stat that I found last night when I was in a rabbit hole, because it is a Connor Hellebuyck party today to appreciate. But so since he became a starter, no goalies recorded more shutouts to him. Okay, and he also ranks 2nd in wins. But here's what I thought was really cool. So since 2016-17, he ranks, and I took this from Natural Stat Trick. You can't go beyond 3 years in a data filter, but I found a way to combine them. So according to Natural Stat Trick data, he ranks 4th in goals saved above expected per 60 among the 61 goalies that have played at least 150 games in that span. It's a mouthful, I know. Now, he's done that while facing the 19th most high danger shots against per game. And the goalies that have more goals saved above expected than him, Sorokin, Shesterkin, Swayman, those guys have all played in front of teams that have let in a lot less high danger shots per game. So I think it's just another testament to the workhorse this guy is. And gold medal the Olympics, maybe Hall of Fame. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, it's one of those things that, like, we talk about that all the time. He is the definition of why goal saved above expected needs to be a statistic, right? Like, we all remember the 2021 Winnipeg Jets. I'm sorry, you put anyone else behind Lucas Spiza, Anthony Bitetto, Derek Forbert,
Tucker
the
Pullman.
Worst hockey of Josh Morrissey's career, Tucker Pullman and Nathan Beaulieu. Like, it was not a fun time in the COVID
and they
bubble.
swept the Oilers.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Really? When did that happen?
Yeah.
No, that
no
was
kidding.
a fun series. But yeah, he's nuts. He's nuts and has always been nuts. And the Galaxy brain take that, if you put a couple of glasses in wine and all 3 of us, you can sit there and be like, Connor Hellebuyck might be the reason the Winnipeg Jets don't have a Stanley Cup at this point, because he's bailed them out of so many games, so many seasons, whatever, that they've been able to not even have to make really hard decisions about, rebuilds or making big shakeups with the core, because he's been able to keep them in every season since he's been the starter.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about that, is Connor Hellebuyck a Hall of Famer thing a few weeks ago. Obviously nothing's really going to change in season in regards to that, but another masterclass from Connor Hellebuyck last night against the Montreal Canadiens. Let's quickly move on to let's go to Nikita Chibrikov. I know we want to talk about him. I know the chat.
I don't think anyone in the chat wants
him.
to talk about Nikita Chibrikov.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's interested in that.
Yeah, exactly. No, but what did you guys think? Let's talk about Chibrikov's 3-game sample. Let's not just focus on last night. Let's talk about the Boston game, the Vegas game, and Montreal. What have you seen from that line and Chibrikov specifically, Lyss? What did you see from Chibrikov?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, he and Brad Lambert were the 2 last cuts of camp in that forward core. And I think when Ehlers went down with that injury, I think the plan of the coaching staff was to give them both a fair look, just go with Brad Lambert for a couple of games, go with Nikita Chibrikov for a couple of games, send them both down, see what happens. Nikita Chibrikov's 3 games have been super exciting. Scott O'Neill had some kind comments about that second line last night. They obviously gave Boston a whooping on Tuesday, and I thought Nikita Chibrikov had an okay showing on Thursday as well. He's been really, really fun to watch. I think he's a really special player in the sense that he's exactly what this Winnipeg Jets roster needs. It's the, aggressive and chippy and all these sorts of things. And then capital G, good at hockey as well, which I think is really, really important to ensure that, players that can be versatile in your lineup have all those different aspects of their game. He's pretty good in transition. He's really nice on the forecheck. Like, I think there are a lot of things I really like about his game specifically as a winger that were tons of fun to watch this week. And I for one, hope that we get to watch more Nikita Chibrikov NHL games. And I'm not talking about in 2025. I'm hoping to see this continue in the short stretch upcoming here.
Yeah. Jacob, thoughts? Go for it.
Connor, is it time to reveal the bet?
It's time. Let's do it.
Okay. Before I give my thoughts on Nikita Chibrikov,
I'm so glad I'm in the middle. I'm like,
I will give my thoughts, or I will present the bet, and you can figure out where my thoughts are on this take. I am going to bet Connor a McDonald's breakfast of your choice and a coffee, whatever you like. I don't know. You probably drink hot chocolate or something. Just kidding.
Wow.
Usually
Wow.
double.
London Fog. London Fog. You should know this by now.
London Fog.
Big London Fog guy.
Sure.
I will bet you that delicious meal from the Golden Arches that when Nikolai Ehlers returns, Nikita Chibrikov will remain with the Jets. And Connor,
yes,
you can be the other side of that.
I will also bet you that delicious meal, whatever you want from the Golden Arches, that when Nikolai Ehlers is healthy, the first game he's back in, Nikita Chibrikov goes down to the Moose. That's
so great segue to my thoughts on Nikita Chibrikov. Agree with Lyss on
he's like, great, thank you for sharing your thoughts. You're wrong. Go.
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah.
Chibrikov is doing everything that the Jets need right now, and he's not just showing it as a flash and a little bit of when Lambert was up here, you saw moments where like, if he could figure it out, which I thought he could have eventually, but still a lot of what it coulda, woulda, shoulda. He could help them in transition, right? Or like, that's speed. They don't have that down the middle, really. That could be enticing. Could be. Everything we're seeing from Nikita Chibrikov is he is an asset in transition. He plays direct. He's good in the defensive zone and making quick and assertive plays. Same in the neutral zone. The offensive zone, he's aggressive. He's smart. He's getting on loose pucks. He's shooting it. Like, he's creating chances. He's crashing the net. Those are all the areas that the Winnipeg Jets are weaknesses for them right now. There was that stat on the TSN broadcast the other night that, Connor, do you have it pulled up or anyone have it handy?
The Sport Logic, like those things.
You probably
which one?
They were last in rush chances.
31st, yeah.
31st, yeah. So right,
I have it here. Here. Ready?
Say the stat.
Yeah. Here are the Jets' offense per game averages this season. Slot shots, league wide, they're 22nd. Rush chances, 31st. Cycle chances, 27th. Rebound chances, 30th. Forecheck chances, 22nd. So they're bottom 10 in all of those chance generation stats per game.
And not to pick on two players, but like Perfetti, Nemesnikov, and that line is obviously a part of it. You bring back Ehlers, and sure, that line will improve. But what Arneal said yesterday before the game was that, which I know that you don't maybe buy in as much, Connor, but my argument is that what he said is Chibrikov doesn't need to be in the top 6 to make an impact. And if you look at what makes the Lowry line so effective, right? this is a line that scores a decent amount of 5-on-5 goals, right? Like they're providing offense because they're providing offense in what the Jets need, and that is crashing that simple, direct. Chibrikov does that, and more than anything, I think that just the shot volume that occurs when he's on the ice is something the Jets desperately need. Like, that's where they're losing a lot of games, in my opinion, is when they're making. Arneal's talked about this, that extra pass or playing cute. You don't get that with Chibrikov. Yeah, he's skilled, but he's assertive, direct, and to the point. Jets need that, and in my opinion, he has pushed the envelope beyond. Like, I think he was one of their best players last night. Seriously, like I think he was. Yeah. Like, I can't think of many more guys that were more impactful in all three zones. I'm being serious.
And
now, Connor, why do you hate Nikita Chibrikov?
Why do you think Chibrikov sucks?
Yeah.
My side of the argument actually has nothing to do with Nikita Chibrikov. It has nothing to do with him. I agree with everything Jacob said. I think he's playing direct. I think he's disrupting a ton of plays on the forecheck, which is a valuable asset, not only for a top six, like we've seen the last 3 games, but for a bottom six as well. The first line's not getting touched. We know this. Connor, Sheffley, Velarde. Third line's not getting touched, even though I have some numbers on how bad they've been for 12 plus games now.
The third line.
And the third line, the Lowry line.
Yeah.
The second line with Ehlers back on it, you're going to take Nemestikov or Perfetti off? Probably not. You need a center on that line, so you keep Nemestikov up. And then that leaves you to the fourth line where, sure, David Gustafsson is hurt right now. We don't have any update. He's in concussion protocol, so maybe that opens the door for him to stay. But I just think the Jets coaching staff loves the fourth line and what they've done this year and their ability to forecheck. And I know that they haven't been great for 10 plus games either. But I just don't see it. I think
that they've loved the fourth line, but I think they love the third line. I think that they're in a situationship with the fourth line where I think it's like they hang out, there's something there, but it's not serious. Like, they've gotten good mileage out of it, but long term, like, to me, the fourth line has had great stretches, but I don't think that they are attached to it.
I agree with you, and I also think the reason that I'm kind of on board with you on that particular take is that I think part of their situationship is they know the potential. They know what that fourth line could be because they've seen flashes, and I think Nikita Chibrikov would get them closer to that end goal. Can you imagine? I'm sorry, with the way Rasmus Kupari started this season, I feel like the tenacity of that line on the forecheck has so much potential if Nikita Chibrikov is on there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it comes back to the size problem, because I think we all would agree that it's Barron coming out. And I think we've talked about that. Barron hasn't been that great last. I loved him the first. I'm a huge Morgan Barron fan. Mm-hmm. I loved him the first 15 games of the year, even when he wasn't scoring. But I think if you put Chibrikov in, we can all agree it would be Barron coming out. And it comes back to the whole size debate, which I have time for and I understand. And this does play into, honestly, Connor's point, to his advantage here. But I don't know. I'm just
they're too set on the lines that they have. If we had seen a pattern won't.
There's never been, Connor, there's never been a young player on the Winnipeg Jets has come in the first 3 games, has not only produced offense, but has been one of the best players on the ice. They've never had that.
I agree.
So therefore, we can apply it to when Kyle Connor was starting out, when Nick Patan was freaking a Twitter god.
Where do they put him?
They
on the fourth line?
Out. You figure it. Yeah, just figure it out.
I guess. I mean,
line blender it up.
I don't think they see him as a better player or a better option for any of the guys who they have penciled into their roles in the top 9 since the beginning of training camp. Since early September, it's been Connor Scheifele, Velarde, Perfetti, Nemestikov, Ehlers, Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton. Those have been the top 9 lines. And
what if you
they go away from it?
Blender the bottom 6. Go.
They won't.
Nino.
Okay, paint Lowry, the sky green. What do you mean, Jacob?
Nino, Lowry, Chibrikov.
Never going to happen. Never going to
happen.
happen.
Appleton, and Barron.
Chibrikov will never be next to Lowry because Lowry plays against the best players in the NHL. He gets the matchup.
And also, I think Lowry and Appleton got married in secret. I think they're together forever.
Yeah, they can't be detached. Listen, even as I'm talking right now, I'm feeling like my wallet's getting lighter and I might have to buy you a McDonald's breakfast. But I don't know. I think they'll
We'll
find
see.
a way.
Well, let me just say this because
Maybe
I
they
brought
keep
up
him
the
as an extra. Okay, keep in mind the bet is that once Ehlers is activated, that he's staying. So maybe they keep him as an extra forward. Don't play him in the game.
No, he has to play. He has to play. Come on.
What do you
he
mean?
can't, he can't be in the press box.
No,
Like,
but
what-
for the state of the bet here, I'm saying if he is activated, I'm saying he won't be sent down.
How about for the state of the bet? Once Nikolai Ehlers is activated, the first game he plays for the Jets or Moose. Because as the 13 forward,
That's a
Like,
better way to
he's
phrase
just-
the debate.
He's just
Yeah, I
hanging
agree.
around.
Games he
He plays since Ehlers comes back is for the Jets or Moose. There's our bet.
Yeah.
Boom. Let me just quickly say this on the third line because I brought up how the numbers say that they've been pretty bad actually for the last 11 games. Their last 11 games, which by the way is since Dylan Sandberg got hurt, which is they're actually most paired with D pairing. I know we talk a lot about like forward lines and D lines, but the Lowry line was put a lot with Sandberg and Pionk before Sandberg's injury, but the last 11 games, Sandberg hasn't been there. They're still breaking even in goals, 4 goals for, 4 against, but 36.4% expected goals percentage, 41% scoring chance percentage, and a 38% high danger chance percentage for the Lowry line in the last 11 games. So
Here's my take. Here's my take.
Go for it.
I take that every day of the week if you are matching them up against the Connor McDavids and Nathan McKinnons of the world and your top 2 lines are shredding. I'm okay if all of the big chances are coming against them and they are just kind of hanging in there, whatever, like the 4-4 scoring, whatever, fine with that, whatever. My question always with that line falls more on, are other people taking advantage of the sacrifice they're providing out there, right? And yes, I know they've had better numbers than that in the past, and I know they can have better numbers, but we also haven't seen 82 games of that line playing against the top line. We see the Scheifele line every now and then get matched against top line, the whole best on best stitch every now and then. So I think I have some patience for it, but it goes to the point that I think all of us are in agreement on that. It's ridiculous for any line in the National Hockey League to be untouchable.
Yeah. And I don't have the stats in front of me on this, but the Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, and Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton trios are 2 of the most used lines at 5-on-5 this season in the NHL. Like the Jets, other teams are breaking up their lines, is what I'm saying. And I know the Jets are right now currently number 1 in the NHL, so that argument really has no weight to it. But when a line is struggling as bad as the Lowry line is, I know they're breaking even on goals, but under 40% in expected goals, scoring chances, high danger chances.
If it was like the 48%, 46%, or whatever,
that's like, breaking even. Yeah.
In the 30s is when we start like that. That is a red flag.
Yeah, I agree.
Flag.
Yeah.
Are they giving up? Are they giving up more, or are they like producing less?
Producing less.
Yeah, like that.
They're not getting
me as much.
Like last night. Lowry got that chance in the crease. They got on the scoreboard. That was a positive step in the right direction for that line. But the past couple games, like the Vegas game, they just didn't generate anything, and they went up against Eichel, so they lost the chances. You know, like that's kind of gonna happen if you don't generate anything. And that's the case. Just to wrap the Nikita Chibrikov discussion, I have a quote from Scott O'Neill, the one that Jacob alluded to from morning skate Saturday, or this might have been practice Friday, but Kelly Moore, CJOB, asked Scott O'Neill if Nikita Chibrikov has maybe earned the opportunity to stay beyond Nikolai Ehlers' return. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, no, I think that he's the type of guy that could, play on the 4th line, 3rd line if there's injury, whatever. I think he's just because he's a competitive guy and he's an energy guy. Gets in on the forecheck. I'm not sure because I've never really seen it with limited minutes that it tends to happen with your 4th line. He'd still get some PP. So kind of he's a lot like Al. Yeah. So kind of along the same lines. I think maybe a touch more offense than Al, but kind of that's always things that happen. And like I say, we'll see where we're at when we get Nick back and kind of lay things out and see how we're looking. But he has certainly earned himself an opportunity.
So there it is, Scott O'Neill. And I will say that quote does go against my argument quite unequivocally. They're going to reevaluate things in Ehlers' back and see where they're at. I am guessing that when they evaluate things when Ehlers is back, they're going to go top line, no. Second line, no. Third line, no. Okay, let's send him down. That's my that is my argument for Nikita Chibrikov. I'd love to see him up. He's such an exciting player to watch, and he is a bolt of energy. Like Scott O'Neill says it every single time he's asked about Chibrikov. He's a little ball of energy. He's always in on the forecheck. He's super fun to watch, but this is more what I think is going to happen, not what I think.
Before we move on, I think you're drawing on history that is skewed. You're drawing on experiences where there was players that were raw. This guy's an NHL player. I said it to you before the season started. I thought Chibrikov could play in the NHL. So
he's an NHL player for sure.
Like a full NHL player, not just make an impact. This guy is an NHL player, and there's no service, not even to his development. Screw that. There's no benefit to your own team to send him down. That's why I think it's a different conversation.
I think the last thing I want to say on this point, because I know we want to move on, is just that the last thing I want, though, personally, is for this to turn into a Ville Heinola, Logan Stanley, one or the other debate with him and Lambert, because it's very easy for fans to do that right now because, they pull last two cuts on forward, like I said, and both guys getting pulled up in the same opportunity. And quite clearly, one of them saw a little bit more success in that limited sample than the other one, but a lot more success than the other one in that sample. But I think the difference between jumping up into center and winger has a little bit of a learning curve there.
100%.
And also just frankly,
lower
like you said, I think one of them, and is a little bit more NHL ready at this time as well. So I think it's one of those things that I don't think anyone needs to look at the Brad Lambert sample and be like, crap, we put our eggs in the wrong basket. That guy sucks. Nikita Chibrikov's a real deal. Relax. We're good. Don't worry about that. But the last thing I want is to see two beautiful queens being pitted against each other like we did with, every other prospect since the, 2011 and onward.
Free Patan.
Free Lambert. No.
Free.
I was on the free pretend train, so you can't.
I was misguided.
Free Niku. That was my Super Bowl, but didn't work out. Okay, let's move on. Like you both said, we've made our points. Nikita Chibrikov, we'll see if he stays, but he's definitely, or maybe not actually definitely, because Nikolai Ehlers might be back next week, Scott O'Neill said, on this little 2-game West Coast swing against the Sharks and Ducks. So we'll stay tuned to the lineup, see if Chibrikov stays in, see if Ehlers is back. If not, Chibrikov's definitely going to stay up because, like Jacob said, he has made an impact. Special teams last night. Jets power play goes 2 for 6. A lot of those are shortened power plays, but the penalty kill goes 4 for 4. Is this anything more than Connor Hellebuyck making saves? Like, did you guys see anything out of the penalty kill that told you that it was, maybe turning a corner? Montreal's power play has been good since Patrick Laine has been there. Scott O'Neill brought that up after the game. Jacob, was this just Connor Hellebuyck killing penalties, or was this maybe the Jets having an impact as well?
No, they game plan well for Laine, though. I think it's just situational. Like that, you could clearly tell, like DeMello, for example, every time Laine he gave Laine very little room. Yeah. And I think that translated a lot to not only Laine not scoring, but he had there was a lot less openings for him. Like whether it was not just Hellebuyck, but the guys in front of him. So that's what stuck out to me. I thought Kyle Connor was great in the penalty kill. I thought that it's no surprise now, but I love that. I love him being on the penalty kill. I love what he does. Maybe we see him do it at the Four Nations. That'd be kind of cool. I think
great take.
In the skilled tournament,
great take.
You need
I agree.
skilled guys that can power kill
against like McDavid, McKinnon, Makar, Point, Crosby.
Yeah,
who is penalty killing on that Team USA? You want to put Austin Matthews out there?
True. Sorry. That's a good point. That's a good point. Actually,
about? Yeah, against them.
Okay, 1-0 Canada. Drop the puck at center ice.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you could have him out there, sure.
I thought the penalty kill looked pretty good, but I'm not going to make any big statements on it because
fair. Yeah,
it was Montreal. Yeah,
fair.
But they played
Lyss,
well.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think Montreal's power play, like I alluded to earlier, Patrick Laine and Cole Caulfield. If I had both those guys in my team, used to have one of them on my team, but I'm trying to feed them the puck too. I think they are a little bit more. I think they have fewer diversified weapons than some other teams in the National Hockey League do. So I think the Winnipeg Jets homework paid off in this one is kind of all I'll say on the penalty kill. I don't think they're fixed, but I also, when it comes to the penalty kill, I question sometimes the staffing decisions on who plays with who. I love watching Adam Lowry on the penalty kill. I don't know if I talk about it enough about how much I just enjoy watching him. he doesn't stop talking out there. He's up at the top and he's managing, and I think he's exceptional out there. And the way, like, I think he's so good. Yeah. And he manages well, and then out comes Kyle Connor to do what Kyle Connor has to do, and Adam Lowry can do what Adam Lowry can do. And I really, really like some of the four. I'm okay with Appleton on the penalty kill. I really don't mind him. Barron's kind of fun out there, and like I said, love Connor, love Lowry out there. So I think last night, I think they did what they had to do, and going 4-for-4 was massive in that game. It was huge.
For sure. And quickly on Kyle Connor, I said this before the season when they started using them at penalty killing in training camp, and everyone's like, whoa, what's going on here? It only was going to work, and it only has worked because they've given Kyle Connor sort of the green light to just fly all over the ice and try and pick off passes and pressure. Like, it wouldn't work if Kyle Connor's just standing there, getting in lanes, blocking shots. You know, like, you don't want
and
Kyle
playing
Connor doing
the first 2 minutes on the penalty kill, out he goes. Nah.
Yeah, exactly. So I love the fact that they wait until the last 30 seconds. Then they just have him like fly around and try and pick off passes. And when he gets the puck, just keep away. He's one of the best in the NHL at that, you know, using his body to protect the puck, using his hands. We know his hands protect the puck quite well. I've loved not only the decision to do it, but the buy-in from both the coaching staff and the player on that kind of stylistic, hey, you're a fast skater, just fly around and try and pick things off on the penalty kill, because that has really worked. And I've liked it. I've liked Kyle Connor on the penalty kill as well. I'm with you both. Do you guys want to talk about the power play at all? I mean, Gabe Vilardi had the backdoor tap in, then Kyle Connor had the 5-on-3 for 2 minutes or for almost 2 minutes. I think it was a minute 35 where Morrissey set him up twice. And the first one, Montembeault just barely got a piece. Then he scored on the second one. The power play, I know we've had some concerns, let's say, ever since Nikolai Ehlers went down. I mean, it's been a little bit more stagnant. I know I've been talking to you off the air, both of you, about that. Did you see anything different from the power play last night, or was this just a case of, again, it's Montreal, Gabe Vilardi was wide open on the back door, and they had a 5-on-3 and converted? Lyss.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had a lot of opportunities yesterday. There were lots of moments. I think the Winnipeg Jets had 6 power plays. Like you said, 5-on-3, lots of different options. When they have the possession of the puck, I think a lot of the guys are still moving really well. I think, you know, Cole Perfetti, I think, is doing a really excellent job of sliding up into that pop position if he, you know, when he's being asked to do that, because that was the Nikolai Ehlers, Gabe Vilardi flirting situation there where they go back and forth like that. I think Perfetti's done a nice job getting in there. The question is always just how much of that 2 minutes are you spending with the puck on your stick if you don't have a guy who's able to enter the zone with as much control as Nikolai Ehlers does. So I think we're just seeing less of a controlled sample right now and a little bit less movement, because of the nature of the player you've replaced Nikolai Ehlers with. And that's not a knock on Cole Perfetti. Everyone knows how I feel about Cole Perfetti. But Josh Morrissey had a good quote yesterday. He kind of just alluded to how special teams are how you win games. I think the Winnipeg Jets are uber aware of that, considering how last season went for them. And so I think there's motivation to get that power play going well, and they know what they can do. To me yesterday, didn't seem to be force feeding any one option. Some games they go through stretches where all they're doing is trying to feed Kyle Connor's hot stick. Like we said, Connor, when you and I did that power play deep dive, I talked about the pros and cons of the different types of power play systems that you can run. And the one that the Winnipeg Jets run is, you know, the pro of it is that it generates a lot of really good quality chances. But the con is that if you're not shooting at as high of a percentage, like, it's not a high volume power play, right? So if you aren't shooting with as much like pristine precision as you were earlier in the season, you're not going to score as much. And the Winnipeg Jets were shooting real high to start the season, and it's kind of simmered down a little bit, and that's why they're scoring a little bit less. But the power play looks pretty similar to me as it did kind of all season, just again with the expected differences between having Perfetti and Ehlers out there.
Right. And the speed difference, because Nikolai Ehlers, like we said on that power play deep dive, was kind of flying all over the place. Like, he would start in that pop position, but then he would go down to the goal line. The entries were great. The entries are still great. I want to say on the power play.
You can,
like, they're getting into the
speak
zone
to Luigi's comment, right? Because Kyle Connor is the guy who carries the puck in most of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Kyle Connor and Scheifele with the kind of crisscross.
And
And
then
then-
drop.
yeah.
And then, it's like a drop crisscross, but then they create kind of this 2-on-1 on the wall with that because they drop the puck to Kyle Connor and then they kind of isolate on the one defenseman on that side. And it's either Cole Perfetti or Nikolai Ehlers on one side of the wall or Gabe Vilardi. And they create kind of this 2-on-1 with speed coming down the wall that they can just kind of give and go, pass the puck back and forth. And yeah, Jacob, thoughts on the entry and the power play in general?
I want to touch on what Liz said about the movement part. Like, I think that's the biggest. Like, to me, it's not that Cole Perfetti has played poorly. I think that you already have. So Cole Perfetti's greatest strengths are his vision and his passing, his ability to see lanes. You already have Scheifele doing that, like his role is to do that, and you have Perfetti in. So sorry, back that up. If you have Perfetti on the perimeter as well, then you become this passive attack, which is one of the Jets' power play's biggest issues. That happens a lot, right? So you need to have him in the middle of the ice. And when he's in the middle of the ice, he doesn't create confusion. And what confusion does is it opens up lanes, right? It makes people, like defenders, make a decision. And you just hope to make the wrong choice, or you make them make the wrong choice with where you pass it to. So that's where I think they really miss him. I think also too, the thing that's like tricky for me is Perfetti the bumper is, if you look at the guys that are good at the bumper, not only are they agile, but they're really quick at getting shots off. I wouldn't say he particularly is. He's had a couple of shots, but he doesn't have that quick release, which can create that, as our Neil says, explosion, I guess, in front of the net. You need to get dirty goals in the power play too. So he doesn't have that quick release there, and that's just kind of my sticking point about it. And I think that sometimes because he can't do that in the bumper, he'll kind of bleed out a bit, and then it becomes that passive attack of just pass.
The defense I'll give Perfetti though is that he's, a substitute teacher coming in to cover someone's afternoon, not maternity leave, right? Like they're kind of just throwing him in there as like a stopgap kind of thing right now. Like, so, but I completely agree with you that and especially like if we were to talk like long-term solutioning, like if they're for whatever reason, because there is a world that Nikolai Ehlers is not on the Jets, right? Like we have to talk about that at some point too.
For sure.
That you don't run this the same way if he is your permanent solution there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's enough on the power play. Before we get to our trending up, trending down segment, which has been a huge hit. Thank you everyone who takes part every single Sunday now. This will be the third straight weekend that we do it. The Logan Stanley chatter has been, I want to say it's picking up in
if you're gonna bring that up, I was like, we need another hour, but yeah, go on.
I was gonna say it's picking up in chat, but it's been going since 9 a.m.
It's hard not to.
Where are we at with the Logan Stanley, Ville Heinola, Colin Miller, Dylan Coghlan, the third pair in general? Lyss, I'll start with you. Just a blanket. I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll be quick.
Yeah.
First of all, we've all seen what's going on with the Manitoba Moose right now. Give them Dylan Coghlan, please. What are we still doing here? Like, give them some help, throw them a lifeline. I think Dylan Coghlan is a serviceable defenseman. I think he could really make an impact with that group right now. My opinion is this. I simply dislike some of the comments surrounding, okay, Ville gets benched in the Vegas game for XYZ play in his own zone when there were just as many touches by his partner, Logan Stanley, in those situations. I don't appreciate that, the consistency there. I just wish there was a little bit more honesty from conversations from everybody, not people necessarily who even work for the team, but fans as well, where there is a serious question about the size on the back end in terms of who can come in and manage games and whatnot. Mm-hmm. My question is, does Logan Stanley actually bring that to the table? Not, is it important to bring that to the table? Because I do believe in the importance of having someone to come in and help, defend the Trent Frederick on, David Gustafson's of the world. I understand that. But my two problems with that are, one, that happens once every 10 games. And I do not choose someone to manage a situation once every 10 games that may or may not even win you that game, when the alternatives is someone who can have a more positive impact for all of their minutes as opposed to once every 10 games. And two is just that, does Logan Stanley actually bring what they want him to bring to the lineup, and how long are we going to sit and wonder if he will when we're in the 8th year of seeing him in a Winnipeg Jets-esque jersey, and that isn't what we've seen. So We can get into that a lot more. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'll kind of just leave it at that. That's kind of a less articulate version of all of my different opinions, but I'm not surprised really by this outcome. This is, especially in this situation with the Dylan Samberg injury, I'm not, freaking out here or anything like that. This is kind of just, going through the motions, right?
Yeah, and before we get to Jacob, I really thought last night would have been a Logan Stanley game, like a game where if he was going to be physical, if he was going to make an impact like that, like sort of how you saw Hrabchak for the Montreal Canadiens, just kind of terrorizing Mark Scheifele all night long, also being very physical, just being a pest after the whistle. But we didn't see any of that. We didn't really see, I like, again, coming out of the Boston game and all of the discussion that happened all week long about Gustafsson fighting and how Stanley should have done this and got to play more physical. And he's in the lineup for fighting for this reason, to play physical. And then just that never really materialized on this night. I thought the crowd was into it. It was a physical game. Montreal's big defenseman was doing the same thing. I thought Stanley would have maybe, leaned into that a little bit more, but last night it didn't happen. Jacob, where are you at with the third pair in general and Logan Stanley more specifically?
Just a quick thing on Stanley. I appreciate the fact he didn't go out of his way to get physically involved, because I almost wonder if either him internally or an external, like somebody told him, they're going to bait you, and they're pretty good at it. Hrabchak particularly. So don't cost us. Like if you're going to fight, you're going to fight, but don't take stupid penalties because you got to stay out of the box. So I wonder if that's there as well. But I thought Hrabchak and Stanley were going to fight all game. Mike McIntyre, the free press, in the press box, had a great one-liner. He said how he needs Stanley needs to go out and fix the Wi-Fi, because that's Arber's nickname. So Mike, shut up. That's hilarious. You want to know an example of what the Jets want Stanley to be? It is Hrabchak. And there is a huge difference here between the two players. Okay, so you can go off of ability and this stuff, whatnot. The difference is Hrabchak is actually really good at getting under people's skin. Okay, yes. He's proactive in doing that. Stanley's reactive. No fault. I'm just saying that's who he is. Yeah. He's the something's happening. I'm going to come in and calm it down. Okay, Hrabchak, he notices Mark Scheifele is going to react to things in that game every single shift. He was against Scheifele. Every single shift, he was in his grill. Yeah. When Gabe Vilardi was pushing back, Xhaka was probably smiling inside. Like, this is unbelievable. I'm going to pick on you all game long. If you're going to sit here and tell me that Logan Stanley has that ability to be a bully in the NHL, then you're drinking a Kool-Aid that I'd like to try on a Friday or Saturday night, because it's not reality, guys. Okay. He's big. He's able to come in and throw his fists when the time calls for or whatever. We can talk about that a different time. I don't want to get into a fight. We've had enough of that. But here's the reality. I understand why the Winnipeg Jets want to have size in their third pairing. Their top 3-minute munchers right now, Pionk, DeMello, Morrissey, are the smallest three in the NHL. Second smallest. Sorry, Colorado's the smallest. Okay. The NHL, the last couple years, the last 10 years, the average height of a Stanley Cup winning blue line is the top. Let me restart. The average height of the top 3-minute munchers on a Stanley Cup blue line is 6'2". If you watch the playoffs, we all can agree it's physical. It gets grittier. There's the battles along the wall are higher stakes. But that doesn't mean you play a player that is costing you in every facet of the game. I'm not so sure I'm even here saying I'm pro Villy. I've been pro giving Villy a chance. I don't think it's been great either. I think you got to go out and you need to find that player on your bottom pair of some sort. I think we're in year 8 of, let's say year 4 of the Stanley experiment. Let's talk about his pro career in the NHL or whatever. Okay, we've seen enough here, and I think that we're at a point where you're saying that the Jets are saying that they are steadfast in contending for a cup. Mm-hmm. We're in a year where the Jets have the best start in franchise history, and they aren't selling out games. They need to win a first-round series this year. Okay? And we're at game 30, and we're just seeing what we have in Logan Stanley. We're just seeing what we have in Ville Heinola, which I support. But, the more I think about it, it's like, whoa. I'm not saying draft and destroy or anything, but it's like there comes a point if can you play or you can't. Like scratching Colin Miller is just insanity to me.
I agree.
What were you going to say, Lyss?
The last thing I was going to say is I just think that at this point in a player's career, I think we're still speaking too much about what guys like Stanley can do. You know, a guy who's 6'7" should do this, a guy who's like should do this, but nothing about the sample that we've seen from that player, which is extensive at this point, makes you believe those same things, right? So that's where I get stuck on this, where it's like, understand that you think that this player could have the potential to do this and could have the potential to do that. But if you just look at him and not other players who are 6'7", not other players who are Libras or whatever his star sign is, right? Like you can't look at those other factors anymore. Like what has this guy done? It's not what you want him to do. So how long can we kind of keep running with this rope?
Yeah. Can
I say one more thing though?
Yeah, just keep it quick.
And
We got to get to our segment, but yes.
I am in favor and have called for them to give Heinola a chance because Sandberg's out. And the reason for that, to be clear, is because this player hasn't had the type of leash that Stanley has. Stanley has been there for 150 games. If you want a player that is in that 5th or 6th D spot that is more like Stanley, and that's going to dissuade you from Heinola, I understand that. But go get someone. Like, I can't take this. It gives me the feeling of 2019-20 when they had, or 2021, Lyss, you mentioned Spiza, Potato. Like, it just gives me that feeling where it's like, it's just a notch down from people. And I feel like we're at this point where you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole. That's it. Connor, sorry. Let's go back to
No, you're good. We needed to talk about it because, the chat is all fired up and rightfully so. It's I agree with the things you guys said. I'm not going to add anything else, but let's get to my favorite part of the show and a lot of people in chat's favorite part of the show, the trending up, trending down segment. This is a segment where we outline who is trending up or down for the Winnipeg Jets over the past week of play. The rules are very simple. All three of us will each pick a player who has been trending up or down, and we cannot repeat an answer that has already been said. To make things tougher, we also can't repeat any answer that was said last week. Just for context, last week we picked Velarde and Fleury for trending up, and Stanley and Miller for trending down. So those players are off the board. The most important rule of this segment is that all of you who have joined us here live on YouTube must hit the chat room and let us know your picks for trending up or trending down. Jacob, I'll start with you. Who's trending up for you over the past week? There's a layup if you want it, but we'll see if you take it.
I kind of want to. I hate that I'm taking it, but I'll take Nikita Chibrikov.
There you go.
I'll go bigger picture here. What I will say is I think that you look at the Jets prospects coming to the year. Elias Solomonson, Brad Lambert were the two exciting guys. While I think those two players are at least perceived to have a higher ceiling than Chibrikov, and they probably do, I think we've kind of underappreciated what Chibrikov can be for a long time. This is a player I believe can be a middle 6'4" that plays with some bite, is impactful. And I think that this year you've seen that. You look at how he did with the Moose this year. I think we all know, but just a reminder, the Moose have been pretty terrible this year. So 13 points in 19 games to me is pretty good. All things considered, or whatever his numbers are. Like even Lambert too with the scoring. It's hard to produce when you're not playing with guys that are at your speed and pace, and that leads to mistakes. So I think that the Jets have a piece in Nikita Chibrikov, and the reason it's exciting that he's trending up is I think, as we all know, Jets have a lot of pending UFAs after this year. They're going to have to fill holes internally, and I can tell you that they got something in Chibrikov. They have someone that can be an NHL regular for them, I think, right now. But even if Connor's right and I'm buying a McDonald's, I think next year they have something here in Chibrikov. Okay.
Lyss, who you got for trending up?
My trending up is Vladislav Nemestikov. I think this past week there's been some, turbulence on that line. Brad Lambert comes up in Ehlers' absence, and Nemestikov jumps to the wing so that Brad Lambert could play at center, and then he goes back down. Chibrikov comes up. I think that second line as a whole has played better hockey this week than they did prior to that. I think Vladislav Nemestikov has had some really interesting looks, specifically in the offensive zone with trying to create those primary chances. I think his manage of the middle of the ice has been impressive this week. I've liked what I've seen from him, and I think I've been hard on him this season. I think he's had a good week.
Yep, I have to agree with you there. Vladislav Meskov, especially last night when we were in the building covering Jets Canadiens, I thought he was quite good. I would agree with CMAC here on Velarde up, but like I said off the top, we picked Velarde last week for trending up. We were ahead of the curve. Or Lyss picked Velarde last week for trending up, but he has been great this week, not only in the goal scoring, but along the walls. He's just been dominant. It seems like he's getting better by the game in that regard. My trending up, I was going to take the penalty kill, but not really feeling that. We had the discussion earlier. I'm going to take Josh Morrissey. I said last week that we haven't really seen these games that we're used to seeing out of Josh Morrissey where he just takes over and he's like so clearly the best player on the ice. We still really haven't seen that, but the Boston game with the pass to Mark Scheifele on the one-timer goal was incredible. The one-time slap shot to beat Adin Hill to put the Jets up 2-1 late in the third period was an incredible shot. Last night against Montreal, I thought he played a great game. He had the pass to Kyle Connor on the power play, the 5-on-3 as well, setting him up twice there. I think Josh Morrissey has had a great week. I still think that we haven't seen that. Like last year, I remember there was this game on the road in Buffalo where he was just everywhere. And he was so obviously the best player on the ice and there was nothing you could do to stop him. We haven't really seen that yet, but I think he's trending up. And that's the point of this segment. So I'm taking Josh Morrissey, Jets #1 defenseman. I thought he's had a great week. And I think we're reaching that point where soon enough, we're going to see Josh Morrissey take over a game like we've seen so many times in the past. Trending down, I'm going to go first. We'll go back the other way. Jacob will give you the tough pick for trending down. I'm going to take Morgan Barron. And I know you could probably, and we'll see what you guys pick, you could probably take any player from that fourth line right now. But Morgan Barron, I think, while I agree with you, Jacob, I really liked his first 10 games of the year. I thought the fourth line was a really good forechecking line. I still think when they're at their best, they're a good forechecking line. And Morgan Barron has a big role in that. On the penalty kill, I still think he's solid, but that line's just not generating enough in the offensive zone for me right now. And Morgan Barron, I'm going to put the spotlight on because he only has 2 goals this year, both of them into an empty net, shorthanded, like 13 seconds apart or whatever that crazy game was.
One of them was great.
And
the bounce was
yeah, exactly. The bank shot, but I think Morgan Barron's trending down. I don't think that line is generating enough offense. And I realize that I'm making an argument against my Nikita Chibrikov thing. But still, I'm going to take Morgan Barron. Lyss, who do you have for trending down this week?
My trending down this week goes to Dylan DeMello. I think a couple people in the chat are in agreement with me. You said you're trending up as Josh Morrissey. Josh Morrissey has looked really good this week, in my opinion. And I find it kind of fascinating. Maybe it's correlation, not causation, but there's been some blending going on with the defensive pairs this week. He's played a little bit more with Neil Pionk. He's played some shifts with Colin Miller. As we remember, Billy got benched in that one game. There has been a little bit more mobility with the partners, and maybe that's a coincidence, but maybe it's not. I think DeMello's had a bit of a rougher season in a couple different areas. And while I don't think this was necessarily his worst week in a Winnipeg Jets uniform, I do think that these massive minutes, this massive load that he's having to carry right now is starting to take a little bit of a toll. So he gets my trending down this week. I must say, still the best trade the Winnipeg Jets have ever made. I do think it's important. I really like Dylan DeMello. I'm a Dylan DeMello fan, but I do think everyone, himself, the team, would be in better shape if he were to lessen his contribution just a scooch. I think his load could be a little bit smaller. I understand the circumstances with the Winnipeg Jets right now don't really permit that, but I think, people are kind of alluding to trades and stuff like that, Jacob as well. I think giving him a little bit of a demotion in the lineup would see the best output from him that we could see this season.
Yeah, and just real quick, C-Mac saying in chat, Kieran Walton and Dom DiVincentis, 2 Jets prospects, both trending way up. And here saying, I'd love a Christmas prospect report. Maybe we'll bring that to you on the WST YouTube channel, a little rundown of how all the Jets prospects are doing at the winter break. Jacob, who do you have for trending down over the last week for the Winnipeg Jets?
I gotta be honest. It's Billy Heinola to me.
Okay.
I think that we gotta just call it for what it is. I thought he was really good in his first 2 games against Minnesota and LA. Actually, I wouldn't say really good. Let me back that up. I saw some really good moments there that may be optimistic.
The guy who hadn't played an NHL game in 2 years.
Right.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Totally. For given that, it's like, okay, I see something here. I think he's been dealt a crappy hand, but I'm not going to fall too hard on that because you can't.
Lots of guys.
We can't do this whole Sammy Niku syndrome where we come up with a litany of excuses as to why he's being mistreated. And now the guy's in JYP Liga right now, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, he could have been like a Norris winner." It's like, I don't know about that. So for me, the thing with Billy that's a little bit troubling is while he was able in the AHL to, I don't want to say master, but sort of refine and I'll say master the closing and defensive plays that he makes. The NHL is a different animal. You need reps to do it. He hasn't gotten it. I don't think he's making enough positive plays with the puck to not get nitpicky about some of those things.
Sure.
Especially for a contending team. So for me, he's trending down. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I don't know if he's included in some sort of trade or something, but I mean, you can't have two guys that you want to be in the lineup because of draft status.
Yeah, I think
have
also,
one, I guess. You can't have any, in my opinion, at this stage of the team. But
I also think that there's something to be said about the fact that the two games that I think we can all agree on that Ville Heinola looked the best in were his two games with Colin Miller. I do think that he's a better partner for Ville Heinola. They just kind of maximize each other's strengths a little bit better. They can both play offensively. They can both move the puck well. Ville Heinola can play on his offside. I'm not knocking that with the Logan Stanley Heinola pairing, but I just feel like that pairing doesn't really move at the same pace. And sometimes it results in some turnovers for both players, as we saw with Ville Heinola turning that puck over and getting benched against Vegas late in the third. So I agree with you, Jacob. And I think I'd like to see Heinola Miller third pair at once this week. I mean, they're playing San Jose and Anaheim. It would be nice to see. Yeah.
I think we're due.
I think he plays. I think he plays this week.
With Colin Miller?
I do too.
Or in general?
I think we'll call him Miller. I think our
toughest question of the show.
No, but our Niels wanted to try that pairing before too, as he mentioned with Stanley Heinola. Like we just haven't seen it. And I think it's such a low hanging fruit and easy way to do it than to put him with San Jose and Anaheim.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Well, that was trending up or trending down. Thank you everyone for taking part. And next week we'll be back and we won't be able to choose the same players. So come back next week.
That's 6 guys.
Yeah. We're going to have it's slim pickings next week. But
it's going to be like trending up, trending down, trending up Larry Simmons. Have you seen the Jets cap flexibility? We're going to start getting really
say that. You can absolutely say that. Like we're going to have to get creative and we will. We're 3 creative people. I'm positive we can do that. But let's wrap the show here with just some quick thoughts on what we're expecting out of the Jets over this next week. They're got the West Coast 2-game swing. San Jose first, which is a 9:30 p.m. start on Tuesday. That's going to be a tough one to stay up for. And then the back-to-back, the Wednesday night, 9 p.m. against Anaheim. I'm really excited to watch Macklin Celebrini. I'll say that because I've tuned into some Sharks games this year. He's been so much fun to watch. And then the Jets will return home for their holiday game Saturday night against the Minnesota Wild. And that's actually a WST night. So we're excited to see everyone here in chat live in person. If you have a ticket to that game, Jets Wild WST night. Super excited for that. Lyss, what are you expecting out of the Jets next week? What do you have your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about some of the trending up players and whatnot. And you mentioned that, if it weren't for last week, Gabe Vilardi might have been in that conversation. Some people in the chat were saying Mark Scheifele's in that conversation. I'd love to see that top line feast on the matchups coming up. We're going to see a Scheifele-Trouba reunion in Anaheim coming up, so that'll be real fun to see. Never thought I'd necessarily see that one. Everyone's kind of, Thomas P. saying those 9:30 p.m. games. When the calendar block that I put for every Jets game bleeds into the next day, it's going to be a little bit of a rough one. But I'm looking to see, like I said kind of earlier in the show, kind of going full circle, when the Winnipeg Jets, like last night, play against a team that is just considerably weaker in many areas, it's nice to see them kind of get some good wins in some big ways. So I'd really like to see the power play cook. I'd really like to see the penalty kill adjust really well and have a dominant game as well. Those sorts of things. I'd really like to see the Winnipeg Jets kind of just develop a little bit more confidence. Because like we saw, there's a difference between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Montreal Canadiens. And there was a difference between the way the Jets played in those games. So I'd like to see them kind of keep going. They don't control the schedule, feast on the poor teams. Hopefully they can get some momentum going into the holiday stretch.
Yeah, and that game Saturday against Minnesota is a big one. Going into the winter break. Last year, going into the winter break, they had that statement win against the Bruins, 5-1 at
December
home.
22nd, 2023. I remember it. I remember it.
The vibes were the highest I think I could ever remember in the Jets family. It was right into the winter break. You just like killed the original 6 team at home. It was nuts. But anyways, Jacob, what are you looking for?
And that's 2 back-to-back Boston beatdowns in Winnipeg.
in December.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. Boston is the Jets have their number for sure. Jacob, what do you have your eye on this week? San Jose, Anaheim, and Minnesota.
My eye is firmly planted on Minnesota. I am jacked up for that game. Hockey Night in Canada, Jets' biggest rival, a team that I think is an amazing measuring stick for the Jets. They play a similar style of game, and they right now are getting similar production from their goaltender. Not similar, like they're getting elite goaltending as well. They have a lot of pieces that the Jets would love to have as well. There's so many similarities there. They hate each other, so I'm pumped for that. I'm expecting 2 wins in San Jose and Anaheim on the Mom's trip. I would be surprised because they went 0-2 last year, right? On the Mom's trip.
0-3, I think it was.
0-3
or something. Yeah, you
got to be better for your mama. So you got to be
better.
Got to be better for your mom. So I think there's going to be 2 wins
some
there.
Urgency.
Some urgency. Yep. Some urgency there for sure. And I'm looking to hopefully some good behind the scenes content from the Jets on their mothers.
Yes.
And maybe get some good clip worthy stuff there too.
I feel excluded from the McDonald's bet with the breakfast earlier in the show, so I'm gonna make one with both of you right now. I will buy both of you a McDonald's breakfast if Logan Stanley doesn't play in that Minnesota game.
Okay.
Wait, do I have to take this bet? Obviously,
no, you're not buying me one. It's a one-sided bet. It's a one-sided bet.
If he doesn't, you'll buy us both McDonald's.
Okay, sweet.
I'm gonna just push a narrative that he shouldn't play that day.
It's a no-lose situation. Yeah, if Jacob asks Scott O'Neill Friday morning, have you ever considered sitting Logan Stanley tomorrow night?
He's like, no.
You'll know why. Yeah, he'll say no. He'll be like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Kirill Kaprizov's playing. So is Stanley. Come on. That's not my first rodeo.
Right. Yeah. That's the lock of the century.
A better bet too, Lyss. We could do a bet on if Logan Stanley will fight that game, or if Lowry will.
Yeah, I mean those games have been kind of tame this year in terms of like.
That means we're just ready for a boiling point. That's all.
We are. Yeah, they're due. They're due, right? Yeah.
Okay.
I could see it.
I could see it.
We'll have to think about it.
Yeah.
We'll announce it publicly on Twitter. We'll find something.
Yes, we will. And Waiters here saying San Jose's surprisingly been playing decent this year. They're a very fun and young team.
Baby.
Celebrini, Will
he's back
Smith,
from injury.
I mean, they're just cruising. And Celebrini,
dude, and
is so much fun to watch. Oh, yeah. They're a fun team to watch, even though they're bad. Which their record isn't too bad this year compared to last year. And Celebrini is a big part in that. But yeah, they're a fun team to watch. So I'm excited for that. Even though Tyler Toffoli, Jets legend, even though it's a 9:30 p.m. game.
Luigi says the same. That's funny.
What a stud, Tyler Toffoli. Anyways, that's going to do it for this edition of WST Sunday Live. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here at 9 a.m. Bit of a longer show, but we were in person yesterday. We had to get all of our thoughts out. We were doing the Big J journalism down at Canada Life Center. That was an absolute blast. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you next week for another jam-packed edition of WST Sunday Live coming out of that Minnesota game on Saturday night, where we will hopefully see plenty of you there for the WST ticket night. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we will see you next Sunday. Have a great week, everyone. See ya.